I'm James McQuivey, Vice President and Principal Analyst at Forrester Research. We're in an important time in the publishing business. 2010 was really a year that rewrote a lot of rules, scattered people a little bit, frightened some of them at least for a little while. And at Forrester, we survey thousands of consumers every year to find out, are they going to buy a Kindle? How do they get books? But what we really were missing was, how are publishers feeling about all of this? We put our heads together with Digital Book World and we recognized that one of the things we owed to the market was some data about how their peers are responding. Is everyone going crazy? Is everyone afraid? Have they got it all covered? We thought we'd start there. So in September of 2010, we started surveying executives. We decided to start small with a group of executives from the larger publishers in the country. We ended up surveying 35 executives who represent 27 different publishers. Those 27 different publishers represent probably about 65% of revenues in the US book market. Now there are thousands of publishers behind them. Many of them are very, very, very small. So we're only representing this sort of large, dominant players in the market, but they're the ones who have the most invested in digital right now, so it was okay to start with them. What we found out was remarkable on some fronts, but also very reassuring on others. For example, we found out that people are very optimistic. We asked them a series of questions. I only shared a few here at the conference. We asked them a series of questions about whether they were nervous, whether they thought they were going to succeed, whether or not the industry was going to go in bad directions. Generally, they're optimistic. 89% say they think the digital transition is going to be a net positive for the end customer, the reader. And surprisingly, a majority of them think that their company has what it takes to compete throughout the digital transition. We weren't sure that they would feel that way. And in fact, it's possible that some of them really don't have what it takes to compete and they just don't know it yet. But hey, bully for them for having the optimism to step into our survey and say, yeah, we think we've got what it takes. So we only pulled people who are involved in digital on some level, which by definition puts them in certain parts of the organization. From director level on up to someone who does report to the CEO. We didn't interview any CEOs as part of this process. But across that spectrum, we found the lower down you go, the more likely it is that your job is all digital. The higher up you are, the more likely it is that you're covering a wider variety of needs and topics inside your organization. But regardless of level in the company, they're still optimistic and they still think this is what matters most right now. What we did get them to tell us, 80% of them told us that there is going to be a need for significant retraining across all levels of their organization. We did get them to tell us that there's significant changes in marketing that will occur and merchandising, but generally what they see is a couple of impacts. Number one, retraining across the board. Number two, some staff will go away. We had under half, but not too far below half of our respondents said they expect general staff to go down in this year, not to mention over the next couple of years. However, they all felt very confident that digital staff would rise. And in separate conversations with some of these publishers, what I'm hearing from them is they think some of this will go from one part of the company to another. The same person will just be retrained. But some of them are expressing real significant concern, which we didn't capture in our survey, but which I captured speaking to them separately. Real significant concern about you can only retrain people so much. If people aren't ready to be retrained or don't even have the baseline skills needed to go from being a publicity manager for titles to being someone who follows Twitter and promotes activity on a Facebook page, those are very different skill sets, and someone might not even want that job, to be honest. So it may not be the headcount goes down on a net basis, but definitely headcount shifts from one part of the organization to more and more digital. That's the feeling of our executives that we interviewed. These are 27 of the largest publishers in the country. And so this is people who are in a transition. They're not coming in from the outside. They're not trying to disrupt. It's not Google, it's not Apple, it's not Amazon. It's the people who are in the business and have been for years. That's why we're surprised, frankly, that so many of them were so optimistic. And when we asked them, does your company have a plan for this? So 80+% were optimistic about their company's chances. 60% said their company had a plan. So right now there's already a gap there. There's more optimism than there is a plan in place. So it's clear that not everybody's seeing this exactly for what it really is. even though they're in the middle of it. And that's a little nerve-wracking. We saw that in other parts of the survey as well, where people are saying, oh yeah, the whole, for example, we asked them when do they think ebooks will represent half of the book units sold in a given year. 2014 was the year that they estimated. Then we said, well, by the way, when do you think your company will be at that critical point where half of them are digital or ebooks and half of them are not? They said, oh, that'll be 2015. So they already recognize that their company isn't going to be up with the rest of the industry, which is interesting that they're still so optimistic when at the same time they're nervous about their ability to keep up. So I think what we have is here is a lot of people who are smart, working on an industry problem, know that they have to change the business, but they're not really sure all the ways it's going to have to change. So 2011 is going to be a fairly bumpy and exciting year, and we'll get back together in a year and see what they made of it. When we're talking the top 27 publishers in the market, there really isn't enough difference there. They're all publishing hundreds of titles or thousands of titles, and so there's no one who can just get behind 10 titles a year. That's when you get to that level, that's a different kind of company. They're organized differently, they can be more flexible, they can be more nimble. They have one marketing budget instead of having marketing budgets across each title, and as a result they can move that budget in response to what's happening on Facebook or what's happening on Kindle. And that's the kind of publisher that we're going to want to talk to this year to see, do they really move better? Are they more aware of opportunities? And will that translate into a long-term advantage? As being small and nimble doesn't help if you can't get your voice heard above the thousands of other voices that are begging to be heard every year. We know in America we publish close to 300,000 books a year. A small publisher who only has 10 can work very hard on those 10, but it's 10 out of 300,000, and that's going to be a challenge. So there's no easy answer for anybody. I just think the small, nimble publishers are in a position to at least take advantage of new knowledge as it comes up, whereas a large publisher has to go through the laborious process of bringing everyone to speed, retraining all these things, changing the way they imagine their relationship with the author, the distributor, and the customer. That's a lot of effort. And hopefully they'll do it, and hopefully it'll pay off for them. But if they don't, there's all these little people around the side who are going to make it work on a smaller scale.